Don't take no shit, bro.
I am the mustache. Here you go. Here's combine bets.
Where? What site now?
I don't know. I'm fucking on some website. It's giving me them. Well, John
Jeremy,
Ross
are you
people
finding
didn't
anything?
know.
No, I'm finding the same thing you guys are. The fastest, like
Malik
breaking
Willis
records and stuff.
Over under 440.
Hey, if you guys are watching the show, we are now looking up combine bets. So we want to see the over-unders of people like Drake London and a few others. So if y'all have one, comment in the chat for us and let us know where to go find some of these combine bets. Now, don't be all sad if Jacob isn't here because he is coming. He said that there's too much crime in Canada, which is I don't really understand that concept, crime in Canada. Do you think somebody stole their bag of milk or something, Shane?
Probably. They stole their milk bags.
Yeah, they're bags of milk.
Wait, milk bags are very different than bags of milk. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend any of our listeners.
Are they different?
Milk bags?
Milk bags?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
All right, so what are we talking tonight, bro?
Oh, man, we got all sorts of fun stuff. I guess we can go ahead and kick this episode off.
Let's go.
Ready?
Yeah.
We don't have Jacob here to just,
cut off.
Yeah.
Well, you can cut me off while I'm in the middle of a sentence.
This is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jacob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Fantasy Intervention. That's right. We're coming at you hot. And, of course, Shane is joining me. Jacob is to come. And we have special guest Jeremy in the chat with us. What's going on, Jeremy? How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing, getting ready for the combine. Still trying to find our 40 times that we can't find. But, I'm excited, I'm doing. How about you guys?
Doing pretty well, man. I mean, I got this glorious mustache on my face right now. It's keeping my upper lip warm, and it's making me look really sexy. So I'm just excited to kick this show off and talk some rookies. Shane, how you feeling?
Your mustache is frightening me and small children.
I hope there are no small children watching the show.
I just assume kids are always watching. That's why I always give little important talks to children, like don't do drugs. Because I'm trying to do them, and if you do them, there's going to be none left for me.
You're talking about the kids for a second.
Yeah.
I don't think you caught that one. But
Toronto Dave, the voice in the intro is actually me.
It is. It's actually Shane. Big surprise.
It's impressive.
What's up,
I like it.
Husker in the chat? What's going on, man? All right, so I know Jacob said he's on his way in, but we're not waiting up for him. We're going to go ahead and dive into this episode. And yeah, we're not the best overall people at evaluating, players, right? Like we have our little quirks, we have our little things that we know, like if they're good at football or not. But there are professionals that are out there at the combine right now taking a look with their own two eyes at these people, and they've been doing it for 20 years now, and that's what they specialize in. However, Jeremy is in with us, and he does a pretty damn good job at breaking down players. I've seen his everything from his stat breakdowns to some of his film breakdowns. So I wanted him to come in and join us, give us a little bit of insight, smarter person when it comes to that aspect. And of course, Shane and I, because we're pretty stupid when it comes to that overall. And then we have to listen to Jacob rant about, numbers that they had in high school and college for like 2 hours. So we had to have Jeremy come join us for this.
School.
Yeah.
They're middle school stats, Pop Warner stats.
Dude, he takes those analytics seriously too. I don't even understand it. But of course, when it comes to the combine, it's not all about how fast somebody can run in a straight line, right? Or how well their hips move, throughout drills and whatnot. But there is a few things that you can take from it, like, applying film to the actual numbers that come out of the combine. Hey, do they actually have this speed? Are they playing against lesser competition? Is this something where you look at the combine and you say, oh, this could be a good indicator of what this player actually is? Or are you looking at the combine more of a joke, Jeremy? Where do you sit on the combine?
I think the combine is, I think it's more of like that level playing field that kind of gives you an idea of like, okay, these are the numbers. It's all timed by the same people, and like the NFL itself hosts it. So it's kind of like a more neutral ground, like you had mentioned, where you get that idea of like, hey, these are hard numbers we can use to kind of figure out, okay, I saw this on film, but yet is it true? You know what I mean? Like you can kind of see that, like you said, you get a group 5 guy that's really, really good, or like a MAC guy that's really, really good and he looks amazing, but it's like, okay, is it just because he's playing against guys that are going to be insurance brokers or, you know what I mean, that aren't going to be NFL guys versus the guy who's playing in the SEC? So for me, I think there's definitely stuff that I like you had mentioned, like I like I don't take too much stock in the 40-yard dash. I think that is kind of a little overrated. But I do like the lateral agility moves, like the 3-cone drills, the 20-yard shuttle, stuff like that. I like to see that little bit. You know what I mean? Then you can see that transition. Like, okay, yeah, this guy looks like he's fast laterally, but now you can see, okay, yeah, he actually has that speed.
The Deuce Staley drill, maybe? The Deuce Staley drill that he brought to the combine? Shane, how are you sitting over there with the combine? Do you care about the combine? Because I have a feeling you don't give a shit about the combine.
No, I care about it because I want them to hit at least the minimum requirements. Like, you know what I mean? Like if Drake London goes out there and runs a 4.9.
Well, he's not running anything because he had his foot injury. He's running at the pro day.
Okay, well, so let's say Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks goes out there and, we're thinking he's running in the 4.4s, 4.5s, and he goes out there and runs a 4.9. I'm going to be like, well, that's not great, Bob. Yeah, there's something significantly wrong there. And then like the running back thresholds, right? We don't want running backs weighing in under 200 pounds with certain height. You know what I mean? Because it is arbitrary as it seems. It's not. There's like a literal cutoff. It's like, look, if they don't hit this weight, then they're not going to be good in the NFL. They're just not. So I just look for the baseline stuff like that. But I think people will talk about it, and if they don't start double counting. Like if you go out there and you expect someone to be a metric fucking monster and they go out there and they're a metric monster, don't be like, oh, well, now they're really, really good. Like, dude, if you expect Jahan Dotson to be fast and he goes out there and he's fast, well, then don't move him up your board because he's already what you thought he was. So yeah, no, I'm old enough to remember Leonte Carrou running like a 4.8 at the combine a couple years ago. I think it was 2016. And him just plummeting.
Shane, that's not a real person.
Leonte Carrou was most definitely a real person. He's still out there running the 40, him and Elijah Holyfield.
And Benny Snell, of course. Benny Snell's right there with him.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Jacob, are you a combine, searcher? Do you look for these stats? Hello. Do you look for these stats? Do you look for the combine to give you answers, towards the future? What do you see with the combine?
Yeah, I think Shane hit the nail on the head. Don't double count, number one thing. So, if I've saw people say, oh, after the combine, Treylon Burks might pass Drake London. And that might be true because we all have very bad approaches. But, realistically, whatever you think of Treylon Burks and Drake London now should include the fact that Treylon Burks is probably faster than Drake London. If it's the other way, if London somehow ran faster than Burks, then maybe I could see your position changing. But since everybody expects Burks to be a low 4.4s, high 4.3s guy, and London is sort of like a high 4.5s guy, that should probably change nobody's opinion if Burks is faster than London. I do care about weigh-ins, like Shane said, especially for the running backs. I care a lot about the weigh-ins. We'll probably talk about some of the guys, but got a lot of these pass catching running backs. How many of them have the size where I can tell myself a story about how they get to be Aaron Jones, because if you come in at 202, that's very different than if you come in at 194. So, we'll talk about some of those guys that I'm anxious to see. And I do care about speed at running back. Historically, the hit rate matters a little bit less. But guys that finish as multiple time RB1s are usually either pass catchers or fast, but they're usually not slow non-pass catchers. So especially those guys, like a Kenneth Walker, for instance, who has never caught passes in his life. I really care about his athleticism. I really, really do.
Hey, he's got soft hands, but we'll get into him in a second.
No one cares, man. He's caught like 4 passes in his life.
We will get into him, trust me, because
yeah.
I mean we're gonna go through the JT corollary here.
You know what he's gonna do? He's gonna be like, "Well, AJ Dillon,
they just didn't throw
passes in
no,
college."
and I hope he does, because I have a whole chart with AJ Dillon on it. I'm ready to rock on Walker take.
Thank you.
All right,
you know what I'm interested in seeing? Kyron Williams weighing in at 205 pounds and 5'9". That's
big. Yup.
5'8", 5'9", baby, no bigger.
All right, so. Do we have somebody in this class? You talked about it, Shane, being a metric monster. We've had the Derrick Henrys, we've had the Chase Claypools that just come out and they destroy the combine, right? And all of a sudden we see their draft stock go through the roof. Is there a player in this class who we could see just explode off the board, not only move up the dynasty draft boards, but actual NFL draft boards as well? I'll start out with Jeremy on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I have a decent list here, but I'll start out with a running back. I mentioned him to Jake just a minute ago, but Tyler Goodson out of Iowa, I think is a guy that, like, watching film, he pops. He didn't really get a huge opportunity. He kind of came out in this last year. He had a big workhorse role, and he's explosive, and he does everything well. And he weighed in. The big question for me with him is his weight. So at the combine, I think if he weighs in and then he runs a good 40 time, does well in like the 20-yard shuttle, all of these things, and shows what he showed on film in the actual metric numbers, I think he's a guy that could slide up the boards, especially if he does hit that 200-pound threshold that we were talking about. And I just feel like he's a guy that's kind of not really getting talked about too much, that could kind of slide up there, because he's also just off the field stuff. If you ever watch, I think it was on YouTube, I think he had like one of his own videos he made, but it's a pretty cool video just based on his like his work ethic and how he got to where he is. It's a good story. So
yeah, love those videos, man. Giovanni Ruffin, that's one of my favorite ones of all time. Shane, is there a certain player that you're looking at who could end up moving up your boards at all if they have a phenomenal combine?
No, because we've done this before where we move people up because they're athletic freaks, and we're like, no, it's going to be different this time. I'm not falling for it. I need the whole package. You better have some college production, right? If your profile doesn't hit in college, I don't care if you're just a physical freak. If you're just a physical freak, I will say this. I'll draft you later in my rookie drafts and take a shot on you. And bet against, the whole like, all right, well, maybe he didn't know how to play football in college and he'll learn how to do it in the pros, which rarely ever happens.
Type guy.
But yeah. No, honestly, the only one I'm really Kyron Williams is literally the only guy I'm like, I need him to weigh correctly.
If we get Kyron 200, he's like so clearly my RB3 in the class, maybe RB2.
I can't see him lower than RB3. Yeah. Like now,
Walker's probably Walker may or may not be in my top 10. I don't know, but Williams certainly isn't anywhere.
I'm assuming Breece Hall's one, right?
Yeah. I've recently become a Hall one. I've been the Spiller one for the longest time, and Noah Noah Hillis, and his smear campaign has finally got to me, and so I've moved Spiller down to 2.
No, you know who I will say there's one guy because I like him, but I got a feeling he's going to test really pedestrian, and I'm hoping that he doesn't. So
I also have a guy
to like him
who I think will test pedestrianly.
David Bell.
Oh yeah.
If he can give me just some athleticism, I don't expect him to be fast, but if I can get some burst, just some reason to still believe, yes. All
I want from Bell, this is why I care about the combine. Honestly, is Bell's a great example where, look, if he runs a 4.75, it's drafted in round 3, I'm all over him. I don't even care. Keenan Allen was freaking slow as balls. Cooper Kupp ran the 4.62. Jacoby Myers ran a 4. There's tons of these guys that are productive, run slow. I don't care. I'll draft them. My issue is the NFL thinks that the 40 time matters. So if Bell runs a 4.6 something, then he's probably not going to be going on day 2. And then I'm not going to be able to draft him because then he's dead unless he Amon-Ra St. Brown's himself back to life. So basically David Bell, I'm praying for you. I pray that you run a 4.59. I want under 4.6. I would really appreciate it, because then a team will draft you on day 2 and then I can draft you in all my rookie drafts.
Well,
I
is
think
there?
he'll still go day 2. I think his production is going to speak enough for him. I mean,
I hope so.
he's just been so good. I get what you're saying, and I could see it too where he falls if he doesn't run that good 40 time, but I agree. I hope so too because I love David Bell.
So is there a small school prospect that you guys might see where, hey, they've been going up against lesser competition, but they've been completely destroying that lesser competition, and they actually have decent draft capital? And
I had a guy until you said that.
They could have, well, maybe they don't have, production, or draft capital, but they could actually produce the combine maybe to drive their draft capital up. And if they have a massive one, you guys can be all over this player. Jacob, we'll start with you because you're about ready to burst at the seams right now.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, this is like such a cliche one, but Tyler Algier. I mean, it's been rumored that he'll break 4.4. He doesn't look like a guy who'll break 4.4 when I've watched this film. But again, me watching his film means going to Just Bombs Productions. So I'm not entirely sure. Brad brings up a decent one too. But yeah, Tyler Algier's top of the list for me. I mean, he's big. He's apparently fast. He does catch passes. He's massively productive. However, he did it for BYU. So he trampled a bunch of nobodies.
Yep.
And it sounds like his draft capital doesn't really exist. But because he's big and because he especially has the story, he converted from linebacker, so people can say, oh, that's why he's not technically refined enough. Like if he actually does come out and runs like a low 4.4s at 220 pounds, with his production, like someone's going to draft him. Like that's like bait to people, and I'll draft him.
So you don't think he's going to be? I think he'll probably get day 2 draft capital.
Not in the mocks that I've seen. Not in the mocks that I've seen.
Stupid mocks.
I know. Yeah. I've been hashtag grinding the mocks.
Why don't they look at it the way we need it to be looked at? It's a 6'2" running back that can catch out of the backfield. Like, what are you doing, NFL? This guy's perfect for you.
Are they coachable though? No, I'm just kidding.
He went to BYU. He was a walk-on at BYU. Switch positions. He's a coach's son. I don't know if that's true, but he sounds like the type of dude that would be a coach's son.
My favorite is if you go on grinding the mocks, you can tell exactly what Shane's saying because all of a sudden his grinding the mocks aggregate is in the middle of round 3, only because all of the fan mocks have him in round 2, but none of the actual expert or media mocks have him drafted anywhere.
Shane, do you have a player or you want to stick with that one?
No, I want to see Christian Watson was invited, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I want to see how he tests.
I think he'll test well.
He's the new hotness, right? He's our small school guy.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about him lately. I haven't watched his film yet, but I'm interested.
Yeah, and like Jacob said, I'm all about Tyler Algier. I hope he goes out and smashes because, I mean, honestly, like there's this I don't like this draft particularly, but there are guys that I'm like loving that I'm going to get in the second round. And I'm just hoping. I hope Kenneth. You know what? I hope Kenneth Walker tests well, so someone else drafts him.
I'll be that guy. All right, Jeremy, how you feeling?
I'll take a recent riser. We'll go with, I don't know if this is small school enough for you, but Isaiah Likely out of Coastal Carolina, a tight end. He kind of just has started to rise up boards. I feel like the tight end class is pretty deep to an extent. As far as fantasy goes, probably not, but it's a deep tight end class. Yeah. So I'm curious to see what he tests out at the combine because I haven't really watched a lot of Coastal Carolina, nor have I really dove into my tight ends yet. But
really?
I know he's
watched a lot of Coastal Carolina, huh?
Yeah. So he has been driving up boards though, like NFL wise and fantasy wise. I know post don't mind me, I'm blanking. Post Senior Bowl, he kind of started to rise up. So for me, I'll go with him. He's a little bit less of a name but Tyler Algier is a good one. So
Isaiah Likely, good thing about him is his name is awesome because then it's going to be like, oh, he was likely to break out in year 2. Like I can just see the articles now. Look, it's fantasy football. We use names and we think we're punny and we're just going to throw them into the title and be like, no one would have thought of that. And there's going to be 87. There's going to be literally 87 articles that drop on the same day that say why Isaiah is likely to break out. I can't wait for it.
Well, now I'm just going to wait for that. I'm writing one now. I'll be one of the 87.
I actually, mine's already in.
Oh shoot!
It's in Chase's mailbox.
Chase, when are you posting it? So I know I'll get on it.
I'll post it as soon as he likely does something. So we we have a tendency to, I guess, fade, certain teams, right? Or certain teams have a tendency to fade certain positions, I should say. We saw Miami, right? Every single year we've seen Miami need to draft a running back, and Arizona need to draft a running back since David Johnson, and yet they fade the position because they don't believe you need to draft that position high. Buffalo Bills are another team since bringing in Shady McCoy, and even then, I don't think they paid very much for him. So when it comes to different landing spots for teams, I kind of want to dive into this and see where you guys feel like they actually will draft a player somewhat early, increase in a player's fantasy value, and what that player has to in the combine in order to get decent draft capital and be drafted by that team. So I want to start it out, and I want to ask a question before we actually go into this because we're starting with running backs. And I want to say, can a running back this year actually go in the first round? It's likely going to be C.J. Spiller, if any. But I mean,
C.J. Spiller?
I'm sorry, that's CJ. I'm sorry.
CJ Spiller's coming back.
Oh,
he just sees all the Bills. He sees all the Bills stuff in the background, and he's mixing. That's
dude, whole entire meltdown right there. I'm sorry. Breece Hall. Breece Hall is probably most likely the top candidate to get drafted in the NFL. I mean, I don't see another candidate who could pull a Clyde Edwards-Helaire situation like they did with the Chiefs. So is Breece Hall likely the top back, and if he is there any chance he gets drafted in the first round?
When did the Chiefs draft?
30th.
I mean,
they might. Who knows? No. There's literally no reason to draft a running back in the first round unless he's generational, and even then, we're going to laugh at you and point at you. No. There can't be. But that said, who freaking knows? Two of them went in the first round last year, and we didn't think any of them were going to go in the first round. So probably, yeah. I'm just going to say the over-under on it is yes. I don't know if that's how over-unders work, but yes, Breece Hall is going to get drafted in the first by someone.
I would. How much do you want to bet on that, Shane?
Not a lot, because I'm just betting on the NFL's own incompetence.
I was talking about it earlier today. I was like, people are going to be really butthurt that are all over Tony Pollard because the Cowboys are going to end up cutting Ezekiel. It's going to skyrocket Tony Pollard next year, not this year. And then they're going to go out and draft Bijan Robinson, with their first overall pick because that's what the Cowboys do.
After re-signing Pollard?
After re-signing Pollard, yes. 100%.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
We'll see.
They might draft Bijan, but they're not signing Pollard and drafting Bijan. That's insane.
I'm just saying it could be possible. It's the Cowboys. They do backwards shit all the time.
No team will draft a running back in the first round. It's not going to happen. This running back class is not very good. The thing is now, did
you say this class isn't very good?
The running back class is. I like the wide receivers.
All right.
Yeah, I like the wide receivers. I don't like the running back. I like the running backs. I like Breece Hall. I like Isaiah Spiller. I like Kyron Williams. I would like them a lot better if there were two running backs better than them. And then that was my running back 3, 4, and 5 in the class. Not my 1. So it's not that there's bad players. It's just that there's not that elite buffer. I would stun me if a running back goes round 1. At this point, running backs are available. A lot of teams have been devaluing the running back for a while. And most of the teams that still value paying up for running backs and drafting running backs highly have them already, right? Most of the teams that don't have running back talent right now, for the most part, except for the Chiefs, are teams that have just kind of made a decision. No, we're not going to prioritize running back very highly. The Dolphins, they need a running back, but they're not going to draft one in round 1. They're going to draft one when they want to. So.
What about you, Jeremy? What do you think on this topic? What do you think about the running back situation? Is there any chance that Breece Hall goes in round 1?
I'm going to say yeah. I'll be devil's advocate here.
What does he have to do? What does he have to do in order at the combine this weekend? What does he have to do in order to get drafted in round 1? Because as of right now,
I think probably run a decent 40 time. He doesn't look overly long speed fast. So I think if he runs a decent 40 time, that might change some minds in the NFL, but he's going to go late. It's not going to, if it's anything, it's going to be oh, wow, Kansas City just took Clyde Edwards-Helaire all over again. You're looking at a team like maybe Miami, sitting at 29 right now with Green Bay or with San Francisco's pick. They might take that shot this year. You don't know, new coach, they might say, hey, we got ourselves a wide receiver. Why not get a running back and help Tua that way? And they might take Brees Hall, just because he's kind of that overall like workhorse style back. Tampa Bay's another one that's back there that might take one if all the quarterbacks are gone. I mean, it's hard to say. I don't think the Bills do. I know there's been some talk about it. And like Jake said, I feel like I could see them almost being like a fall into like where Jonathan Taylor went in the beginning of the second round. You could see a couple there, like with the Jets, the Giants, the Texans. The Jets have 2 picks at 35 and 38. You could see them maybe take somebody to pair with Michael Carter. I think that's kind of where you're more likely going to see it, but I think Brees Hall might get that.
I think the thing this year too versus last year is like I think this year's class is also deeper at running back than last year's. Mm-hmm. And I think last year was kind of a perfect storm that led to Harris and Etienne going in the first round, which was you had 2 very dumb organizations that decided they needed a running back. Like the Steelers and Jaguars are just not like 21st century organizations. And then you also had this class where, I think Etienne and Harris were both regarded generally, and Javonte too, honestly. Probably any of the 3 of them would be RB1 in this class by consensus. And then you also had just no other running backs that anyone liked. I mean, after those 3, there was no running backs drafted in the second, only Trey Sermon in the third, who I'm not sure plays in the NFL anymore. And like everybody else was drafted on day 3. It was crazy. So I think this year we see like more day 2 running backs. I mean, you can't have less. There was only 1. So I think this year, let's say we see like 6 or 7 running backs all round 2 and 3. That would be my guess.
Now, Jeremy did bring up the fact that we had the Miami Dolphins with Brees Hall, and that'd be a very good scheme fit overall. However, they do run a little bit more of a wide zone run scheme, and Miami graded out for AGQ's offensive line blocking schemes. For zone schemes, Miami scored a 78%, which I think was 2 or 3 in the NFL this past year, which is why I actually love Kenneth Walker for this spot. Kenneth Walker literally is a better version of Elijah Mitchell. We talk about top end speed. We talk about speed to the edges and his ability to accelerate to the edges as well. And he fits in really well with Mike McDaniel's system, along with the fact that
they don't throw a running back, so it's a good fit.
That was part of it. So I don't even care about his pass catching abilities or his pass catching history, because that's what you need. You just need breakaway runs, and that's what Kenneth Walker offers you more than anybody else in this class is breakaway runs and his ability to generate fantasy points on the ground with just a couple carries. Now, I think he's going to be getting a lot more than that, but there's a chance that he plays only first and second down because of his run or his pass blocking abilities, which means that he could still be a home run smash for dynasty leagues, for your fantasy teams in year 1 if he ends up with Miami, and I love that landing spot. When it comes to Kenneth Walker, I know you guys are already going to shit on him because he doesn't catch passes, but I will say that he caught 60% of his team's passes this past year out of the backfield, and he ran 200 routes, but none of those were actual routes beyond the line of scrimmage, or at least it was like maybe like 5 of them tops. They were all flare routes. So he was never seen an opportunity. And when he did get the opportunity, his hands were so soft. He had 1 drop that hit him in the face, but outside of the 1 drop,
which is 10% of his total targets in his career.
I think he saw 16 targets this past year. But I mean, even Wake Forest. So Wake Forest, I went back, and Wake Forest didn't pass the running backs either. So it's not like he was in systems that even looked at their running backs. It was like the 5th read. And in college, you don't have to do 5 reads in order to do a check down. And if you do, then you're probably getting sacked before then. So I'm going to start with Jeremy before I get completely shit on. And what's your take on Kenneth Walker? Even if you're going to shit on him, go ahead and do it. But what's your take on Kenneth Walker?
All right. So if you're a running back that hits that 200-pound threshold, I don't look at the pass catching ability a ton. And here's why. And you can get arguments like we'd mentioned earlier. A.J. Dillon's a guy who didn't catch out of the backfield. The biggest argument you can argue is Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
He didn't catch out of the backfield. Obviously, a much more generational talent than Kenneth Walker is. But
we don't know that yet.
We do. But it just like I just don't believe, like, we've seen it where, like, it's like you mentioned, it's just the scheme of the offense or in the college game that they necessarily don't always throw to the running backs depending on the school that they attend. So for me, I don't necessarily look at it too much as that, because I believe that's something that's somewhatly teachable to a running back. And I think that he's going to give you that fantasy value on the ground, like you had mentioned, even if it is just first and second. But to me, I just think that for me, Kenneth Walker, I still like. I think I'm going to have him probably at 2. It's probably too high for Jake. I know by what he said earlier, but I think he's going to fall at 2 for me, depending on some couple more things and once I roll back. But I really like what Kenneth Walker brings. Like you said, the explosiveness. And for me, just the pure running ability for him is going to be great depending on that landing spot. Like you said, Miami's a good one. Anyone that runs his zone scheme is going to be great for him.
Shane, how are you feeling about Kenneth Walker? Let's bring the heat.
I mean, look, I don't like him, but one thing that I've learned is that, again, it doesn't matter what I think. If he gets day 2 capital, guess what? I'm going to like him a lot better. If he ends up in, and don't talk to me about scheme fits, please, but just say, for example, he ends up in Miami or Atlanta and there's no one else there. Guess what? I really like him with day 2 draft capital. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to like him a lot.
Atlanta also finished top 5 in zone blocking schemes.
Good. So, yeah, of course I knew that. No, I'm big on the zone blocking schemes. You know that. I'm going to let the NFL draft capital dictate how I feel about the guy, because that's going to dictate what type of opportunity he gets. You know, I'm not going to go all in like I did on Trey Sermon after that he got drafted in the 3rd last year.
Just don't take shitty prospects. How about that?
Yeah.
Take wide receivers instead.
Yeah, Trey Sermon was like an outlier. That was crazy how far he drove up when he went to.
I kept telling myself,
Sermon, for the record, like Walker's a better prospect than Sermon.
Yeah,
like, Sermon was a garbage prospect.
And Sermon, yeah, he had 2 good games, and I even said to myself, like, no, I'm not buying this guy off of 2 good games. And then the NFL drove up his price, and I'm like, all right, but the Walker, is a better prospect, and he has had much better college career than Trey Sermon. But and just so you know, Husker, I know I say I hate this class a lot. I like it in pockets. I like it from 101 to 106, assuming that 3 other people take quarterbacks. And then I love the second round where there's going to be wide receivers with top 50 draft capital, and there's going to be a couple running backs that I really like sitting out there. It's just I don't want to. I feel dirty when I look at the board and I'm like, am I drafting Chris Olave at 107? You know what I mean? Like, that makes me feel empty inside. Well, I'm just saying. Okay, so I'm drafting Drake London at 106. Like, that makes me feel bad.
It's very.
I'll be drafting Drake London a lot higher than that, buddy.
Okay, it's all yours, bro.
All right, so Jacob, tell us about Kenneth Walker real quick, because I know you want to dive into it, just to an extent.
Yeah. So look, I'll be very clear. I will draft 0 Kenneth Walker under any circumstances. I have a strict 0% Kenneth Walker policy on my team.
This was Kadarius Toney for you last year.
Yeah, and like he did the best thing that he could do, but also that's a wide receiver. Like, running back is just easier. Like, if Kenneth Walker succeeds, there will have never been a running back prospect with a profile even close to resembling Kenneth Walker's profile that will have succeeded as a top 12 fantasy running back. Not even close. His best season market share of receiving yards is 2.7. Like, there are other players, like, and we mentioned Jonathan Taylor, AJ Dillon. They're not even in the same stratosphere. Jonathan Taylor's receiving yards market share was 9%. AJ Dillon's was 8.56%. That's like almost 4 times what we have out of Kenneth Walker. Like, the only running backs that have ever been drafted in the top 3 rounds in the last 20 years in that tier were like Derrick Henry, who is 247 pounds and a freak of nature, Christian Michael, who massively busted, and then there's one other one who I can think of that busted. The only one who's ever succeeded is Derrick Henry, who's a freak of nature. Kenneth Walker has no chance of being a top 12 running back in the national in fantasy football. Look, he can be a great rusher. I honestly, I don't care. Like, he might be. Like, I don't really grind the film all that much. People that have grinded it and people who point out the yards created and everything like that, it seems like he's going to perform really well. He might be the best rusher in the class. However, he's going to come in undersized. He's going to be a 205-pound back who doesn't catch passes. Like, to me, he might be a solid NFL starting running back and be top 12 to 24 for a very long time. And maybe people will like that. But at an opportunity cost of a first-round rookie pick, it's just gross to me. So I'm going to be taking wide receivers where he goes. I would trade the pick. Like, what I'm saying is I don't think he's bad at football. I don't think he's a bust. I'm not saying that. But, like, if all of these explanations about, okay, his first team didn't throw to running backs, this team didn't whatever, he was fine when they threw it to him. I mean, he never even had 50% of the receiving yards among running backs on his own team in any of his 3 college
years. Did you watch
years.
the tape, bro? Did you watch the tape?
No, because it's people are
I
trying
don't
to
watch tape. I don't
like. It's just he's such an outlier. Like if he was like at 6-7%, it'd be like okay, whatever. It's not as much as you'd like to see, but it's 2.7, and he never has a season where he's had 50% of the receiving yards of his own backfield.
But in his defense, I believe the majority of his receptions came inside the 30-yard line, if I remember correctly.
Why do I care where his receptions took place?
Yeah, what are you talking about? What are you talking about, bro?
You're talking about, if you get him inside the 10, inside the 5, which is where he actually had quite a few of them from the game film I was watching. Like, how is he going to get yards if he only has 5 yards to go? He doesn't.
I don't care how many yards he has. I care about getting like receptions. He has less than 20 career receptions.
That's not good, bro.
Yes.
Like, it's
not career.
Issue.
It's not. I don't think it's career.
16.
Career?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a small number. Look, I honestly I'm trying to not come off as like too mean because I honestly think he's probably a good rusher. Like every piece of data says that he's probably a good rusher. However, he also has concerns with that, such as that he didn't emerge until he had to transfer from one Div 1 program to another, and then he was a one-year wonder. Like that's also a concern. So he just has all these red flags.
I got 19 receptions. 19.
Okay.
Oh, well, yeah.
I said under 20. That's under 20.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, yeah, I'm just
okay. So
math. Sorry.
He's a red flag prospect. He's a red flag prospect in the sense that he's a transfer. He's undersized. He's going to be major outlier in receptions. And it's like, okay, I'm willing to accept red flags if he was a 230-pound 4.3 guy, right? I'm willing to accept red flags if he was going in the second round of rookie drafts. I just don't want to draft a bunch of red flags in the first round for a guy who everything it says is risk to ceiling as much as they're risk to floor. Like, I don't think he can't play. I just don't think he has the ceiling that justifies me hand-waving red flags.
All right, so let's pivot real quick. The Buccaneers, there's a good chance with their cap situation, with them possibly having to do with somewhat of a rebuild, that they'll move on from Leonard Fournette, they'll move on from Rojo. This team might need a running back, and with them possibly going into the year with a second-year quarterback, maybe. I don't know if they actually do or not. Do you see Tampa Bay paying attention to a certain running back in this class? Do any one of y'all actually have a player that would actually fit well with Tampa Bay?
Who's their quarterback?
Yeah, I mean,
to be honest, I think this is what's
now.
going to happen. I think they bring in. They're still going to be almost in like that win now mode. The team around the lack of a quarterback that's there is aging. I think they're still going to try and make a push. I think they try to go out and somehow coerce San Francisco and trading them Jimmy Garoppolo or grabbing like Carson Wentz. I don't think Trask is the quarterback there. I also don't think they draft one. And that's where I think that could be a surprise, is that Tampa does take one. And to be honest, Kenneth Walker might be a guy that lands there. Not to keep on Kenneth Walker, but like he might fall to like the 60th pick in the second round, depending on how the draft goes. And he could be an option for Tampa in the second round instead of the first round. But I do like a running back landing in Tampa. Do I think it's going to be anybody in particular? Not really. Isaiah Spiller could be interesting there. Kind of has a little bit more pass catching upside. And if you get Jimmy Garoppolo there, he's going to probably dump it off to him. So
I like Isaiah Spiller a lot. I also like Kieran Williams. I think that he's a good option to play third down role instead of Keyshawn Vaughn, because Keyshawn Vaughn can't catch. I think that they both complement. And then Dameon Pierce is somebody that also makes a lot of sense to me. A little bit more of a veteran, can handle the pass blocking situations, can pretty much play the three down role. Shane, who do you have possibly going to Tampa Bay, if anybody? Nobody that you're interested in.
They're not going running back. They're not. I got a feeling they're going to be bulking up their offensive line and defensive lines, to be honest with you, because like Jeremy said, I think they're in win now mode. I think you still have Mike Evans, you still have whatever's left of Chris Godwin when he comes back. If they want, they can bring back touchdown Lenny, playoff Lenny. You stick a Jimmy Garoppolo in there, and he at least gets them to the playoffs. And I think that's the route they're going to go. Of course, it's Bruce Arians, so who knows? Because he's not good at his job. So they could decide to just shock the world and go Breece Hall in the first, and we're just like, okay. Which I guess if you plug Jimmy Garoppolo in there, that wouldn't be that bad. I don't see them going running back. I don't see it.
Yeah, I think it's like a outlier, but it could happen. I agree. I think it's second round, if anything. That's why I think like even like Chase said, like a Dameon Pierce, even in the third round, somebody that they just hold off on.
James Cook.
Pierce is a guy that's like, it's weird for me where I feel like everyone in the fantasy community hates Pierce, and I kind of do too. But everyone in the draft community and the film community seems to like him a lot more than I do, which in best ball, I'm like, why is this guy going in the 20th round? I feel like he's probably going to get drafted ahead of guys that are going in like round 14, 15.
Yep.
So I'm scooping up all this Dameon Pierce, but then I also know that if he gets drafted round 3 and he goes in the second round of rookie drafts, I'll then draft no Dameon Pierce. So I'm kind of in a balancing act right now with Pierce.
Yeah, he seems like somebody that is like, hey, I just hope that he doesn't gain too much value because I want him on my team, but I don't love him enough to make a reach for him. All right, so let's talk about one more team, and then we'll move on to the wide receiver position. The Atlanta Falcons are somebody that's going to need a player. Breece Hall, I mean, is the obvious fit, but Atlanta has never really cared about their running back position. I mean, when was the last time that they took a running back in second round plus? So are they going to end up making a play for running back this year? Is this the year that they change plans? If they do, is it Isaiah Spiller? Is it Breece Hall? Where do we see them going? We'll start out with you, Jacob.
Yeah, I think they're going to re-sign Cordell Patterson because Cordell Patterson was really good for them this year, and he's a 30-year-old running back. So I don't imagine that he's going to have like some army of suitors trying to pay top dollar for his services. It sounds like he really wants to go back. Like, why wouldn't he sign for like 2 years, $8 million, first year guaranteed, second year has like $1 million guaranteed, and the rest is void. Like that's what I see happening. And then I'm sure that they'll try and draft like some sort of plugger to go alongside him because like I think this year he was most effective earlier in the year when they were really using him in more of a hybrid role. And towards the end of the year, they decided to just start using him as like a inside grinder back, and they were scaling back his routes, and it was weird. And I really hope they don't do that again. So I would like to see them have Patterson there. And then I think we'll learn a lot of how they plan to use him by what they do with a complement. Like if they draft like a James Cook, then that would be what I don't want to see. That makes me think Patterson's going to stay as the grinder back, and they're going to try and set up a third down back. I would prefer them to draft someone like a Dameon Pierce, who can be that more grinder back. Maybe, I mean, if they draft Kenneth Walker, like that's going to have the kind of draft capital where Patterson's going to get phased out. But like someone, because as much as I'm like, for you. Because, by the way, again, as much as I'm shit-talking Walker, like, wherever he goes, I fully expect him to take on the early down role. I think he's a really good early down running back. I don't want that to get lost.
So, Brian Robinson is somebody that I think could go to the Falcons or to the Giants, right? The Giants, he'd be a backup behind Saquon
I really
Barkley.
hope he goes to the Falcons because, oh my God, do I ever want to fade Brian Robinson? Like, please give me that opportunity.
Brian Robinson,
give it to me.
Brian Robinson is
Older
this
than
year's
Shane.
Trey Sermon. I don't care if he gets drafted in the first round. I will go. No. No. I did this same exact thing. Not doing it this year.
Hovering over his name on rookie draft day. I can't do it. No.
I would do unspeakable things for Brian Robinson to be drafted in the second round of the NFL draft, because that's just an extra space for a wide receiver to fall to me. Like if he's great, then power B, but he won't be doing it on my teams.
All right,
Praise
so
Bay. Are you a Handmaid's Tale fan? Did you just say Praise Bay?
Praise B, Shane. Praise B, Robinson.
So Brian Robinson, right? He can catch passes. He can, lumber down the field. He's got the size. It fits like the whole. What was his name? Brandon Jacobs, right? Type persona, where he's tall, lengthy, but he's got hands.
No,
he's just the most.
He does have hands.
He is like a cardboard cutout running back to me. Like he does everything at a B- level, and that is appealing in the NFL. And like he has a much higher floor than a lot of these guys. Again, he's a guy I want to draft in best ball drafts because I think that he'll get on the NFL field this year. So he's one of my most drafted players.
I had to stop drafting best ball. I had him almost everywhere because I think he's going to see the field on first and second round. He's going to see the field at some point.
He's one of my most drafted best ball running backs, like in round 17, because he's pro ready, because he's 1,000,000 years old, and he'll see the field. So I have no problem with him in best ball. And honestly, if he like gets drafted in the 4th round and I can just snag him in round 3 of rookie drafts, I'm going to do that. But the ceiling, like, I don't know if I see a ceiling for my guy B-Rob.
So, Jeremy, we'll finish out with you. How do you feel about B-Rob, and then we'll move on to wide receivers?
No thanks on B-Rob. I'm pretty out on him. Like you guys said, I mean, Jakob hit it pretty hard there. I mean, he's just an average kind of meh running back. But I do think like anybody in that 6 foot range, Kootenai, Ingram, Zamir White is a guy that you could see land there. I think they have 3 picks in the first 2 rounds. So I could see them waiting, like maybe taking somebody at 58, or even just waiting till the 3rd round at 74. So I think you're going to get a guy like that, like you guys mentioned, Brian Robinson, maybe Tyler Algiers. But I'm going to say that they're going to go for that 6 foot mold and try and hope to get that Derrick Henry. Arthur Smith loved Derrick Henry's size and abilities. So somebody of that, like Rashad White's a little undersized, but he's over 6 foot. Somebody like that, I think is somebody
Drake build.
Yeah, somebody that they're going to like bring in that's got some size and some oomph, almost like Jake said, bring Patterson back as kind of that hybrid role. Zamir White is a guy that stands out a lot. He's a pure runner. He's kind of like Kenneth Walker that doesn't have that passing profile, but just dealt with a lot of injuries and kind of got faded throughout his college career. But he's a very good runner, and he's just a pure runner with size and power. So I feel like he'd be that kind of Mike Davis role, but a little bit younger, possibly a little better. So,
can I give my very sophisticated film take on Zamir White?
Hit me.
My take is that I root for Tennessee because I'm Canadian, so we don't have a team, but I'm a Colts fan. So Peyton Manning went to Tennessee, so I root for Tennessee. And every time they would play Georgia, I would actively celebrate when they subbed James Cook off the field and put Zamir White on the field because for years of watching Tennessee-Georgia games, I'm just so much more frightened of James Cook with the ball in his hands than Zamir White. And so for that reason and that reason alone, based on my 2-game sample of watching them, I like James Cook, and I think Zamir White's kind of a jag.
I mean, Zamir White, and this is the heartbreak at Devi. Zamir White was not a jag until
double ACL.
Yeah, until he tore every ACL that's ever existed in the history of man.
He was a real high prospect.
Yeah, like he was like
I have him in my campus to Canton team, and every time I watch him, I'm like, okay, I hope you get a 1-yard touchdown.
Yeah, man, I drafted him probably like super early in a Devi draft when he was coming out of high school, because that's how highly he was thought of, man. And then when he tore that ACL again, it was just like, oh God, why do you hate me? Not to him, to me, because I had used a Devi pick on him.
All right, so let's move on to wide receivers real quick. Because there's this top tier of wide receivers. Some people have like one top tier wide receiver, like Treylon Burks, right? And then
Finally
some people have 2.
Position I like.
And then we have guys that have like 5 people in their top tier. And for me, it's like, okay, so I could see how 2 or 3 guys can make it in the top tier. For me, right now it's 2. Meanwhile, I have like the second tier has like 10 guys in it that I really couldn't care less who I ended up with in that second tier. So for you guys, we'll start with Jeremy. Like, how many guys are in your top tier for you? And you don't even have to name them because we're probably going to discuss them anyways. But how many guys are in your top tier?
2.
Wide receiver. 2? Shane, what you got?
I stopped doing what? Huh?
Oh my God,
how many names are in your top tier at wide receiver?
In this class?
Yes.
No, in the 2018 class.
There is
in the 2035. We're going real far out.
You've got
on the Minnesota Vikings.
Treylon Burks.
So 1. You're at 1.
1.
Now
I have 4.
Burks, London. Let me see what his speed looks like. Right, if he comes out there and he doesn't run a 4.7. Oh wait, he's not running again. But at his pro day, if he can find a way to limp to a 4.5 or so, I'll feel a lot better about him. So 1 or 2, and then I have like a big like just cluster of dudes.
Okay, so
kind of. I have 4, but I have like 2 that are a little bit ahead of the other 2 in that tier. So like I have 4, which is London, Burks, Wilson, and Williams. But so I prefer London and Burks to Wilson and Williams.
Yeah, but, you have those are 2 different tiers.
But I have a larger gap between Wilson and Williams and then anybody else than I do between London and Burks and Wilson and Williams. That's why I've been saying it's a 4-person tier.
Okay.
Like I have it's like London Burks.
I see that, but
Wilson
you just said
Williams, everybody else.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying, and honestly, like so Wilson I like to an extent, but Williams is my third guy, and if he tests very well, well, he's not running, but if he ends up in the right landing spot, he could end up moving into the top tier for me. So let's go ahead and talk about some of these players' landing spots because we kind of already covered, what certain players have to do, and we got like Arizona, right, who might need, a third receiver. We have Atlanta who needs a one receiver. We have like the Bears.
I'm sorry. Does Arizona have a wide receiver one?
DeAndre Hopkins.
He's a tight end. Who's our wide receiver 10?
Shane just hates the old. Like Shane's like, you traded for Barkley. I saw him at the retirement home. Oh, DeAndre Hopkins. Like, when's he collecting his pension?
So funny how ages Shane is, but he claims to not be. No, so which team needs a wide receiver more than any other team in the NFL right now? Because for me,
the New Orleans Saints.
I was just gonna say.
They got Thomas. Oh, the Cleveland Browns. Then it's the Cleveland Browns.
I was gonna say the Cleveland Browns. So
no,
they were going to be my team. Wait. They were going
don't
to
need
be
a wide receiver.
They don't pass the ball enough.
Let's correct this.
They don't pass the ball.
They need one, but I do not want one going there.
Oh, true. Of course.
True.
Yeah, of course.
For me, it's going to be the Atlanta Falcons because they don't have any wide receiver. I understand that Kyle Pitts could be considered a wide receiver, but they don't want Kyle Pitts to be their number one option, in my opinion. I think that they want a speed guy who can kind of extend the field, who can, command double teams without having to worry about, not getting targets, although he is commanding double teams. And Kyle Pitts, unfortunately, was not able to do that this past year. So when it comes to the team that you guys want to get a receiver that actually needs a receiver, what team is that? We'll start out with you, Jeremy.
I'm going to say Chicago. I'd like to see Chicago get one to pair with Darnell Mooney. Robinson's most likely moving on. So right now it's just Darnell Mooney. They already got Cole Kmet there. They already got the good run game with David Montgomery. Justin Fields hopefully is the guy. Hey, it'll be a two-headed monster. I'll give you that. We'll go with a two-headed monster. But I'd like to see them bring in like that Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave, just somebody like even that Justin Fields is familiar with. I know there's been some talk about those guys are the guys who they're looking at possibly, but just somebody to come in that can kind of be a little bit bigger of a sized receiver, even the same size as Darnell Mooney, someone to just create separation for Fields to give him that skill position improvement.
Shane, do you have a certain team that needs a wide receiver that you actually want them to go to that team? Because you could say like the Chiefs, they don't really need a wide receiver. No. I was loving the Chicago because they have a good number two there. Like Mooney's a very good number two wide receiver. They have Kmet, who's a starting tight end in the NFL, and Montgomery. But no, and this is just they need it, and it's out of personal greed because I have so much of Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, that was my answer.
If they could go ahead and take Treylon Burks, Chris Olave, and Drake London or Jahan Dotson. You're right. We got to switch up. We don't want to get redundant. So maybe Jahan Dotson and
they could bring Justin Ross with that.
I was just going to say they could bring Justin Ross back. And they can have all three.
Not Justin Ross. Another
getting the band back together.
Another Devy, just heartbreak. Remember him freshman year. But anyway,
I think they should get Justin Ross. They already have ETN, trade for Higgins, and we'll be gold.
No, I
signed Mike Williams.
Oh my God!
I like the
and Sammy Watkins.
Hunter Renfro's gonna be free agency.
Is Wayne Gallman available?
He probably is definitely available.
Oh my God, we need to take over the Jacksonville Jaguars ASAP. Let's make a phone call.
Yeah, we're in Clemson South.
So yeah, I'll go with those fine folks down in the Jacksonville land. So because I need Trevor Lawrence to get himself a legitimate wide receiving core down there, so that they're not targeting Tavon fucking Austin and Jamal Agnew and goddamn Dan Arnold.
And former Tevy Darling, Laquan Treadwell.
Jesus.
Oh God, I forgot. Oh my God! All right, Jacob. So he's still your team.
I was going to say Jacksonville, but I'll go with like the same vein, which is the New York Jets, and I want that for two reasons. Yeah. Number one is that I would really like to have more Elijah Moore than I do currently, and I want people to do the silly thing that they did with T. Higgins last year, which is to freak out, and I need my Elijah Moore buy low window. So I would really like a wide receiver to go to the Jets, and then I would like, people like Chase, for instance, to say like, can this guy really get enough targets with this other guy? Because talk about target competition. So I want that. I want my Elijah Moore window. And specifically, I want Drake London to go to the New York Jets because he's a perfect skill match with Elijah Moore. With Elijah Moore being the small, quick guy, he can be in the slot and 3 wide receiver sets, go outside and 2 wide receiver sets as the flanker. Drake London can just go be the alpha X wide receiver. I think they play off each other really nicely. And my only fear with loving London as much as I do is that he lands if London lands in Cleveland, like I'm aborting ship because Baker Mayfield would be like the biggest nightmare on planet Earth for someone like Drake London. But as much as I think Zach Wilson's bad, he's not risk averse. And I think that's what London needs is a quarterback who's willing to just trust him and chuck it. Keaton Slovis is bad, but Keaton Slovis will just chuck it into double coverage. Like he's just like Drake London down there somewhere. And that's kind of like what I want to see London paired with. So I like the Jets.
So would you rather have Drake London land with the Raiders, with the Titans, or with the Lions?
Not the Titans because they don't throw, and A.J. Brown already gets all the targets that they do have. So I would go with the Raiders. That would be awesome.
Yeah, they need.
And the Lions is totally fine.
They need a legitimate wide receiver in what do you call that place, Las Vegas, after wasting draft capital on Bryan Edwards.
I have him going to the Chargers, but I think that the Lions are definitely a possibility. I think
I love the Chargers one.
I think the Chargers. That's where I have him slotted right now. Is to the Chargers. I think the Chargers are an excellent fit with Mike Williams.
Oh, I just came.
It's
I literally just came. I just charged.
Wow, then.
The Lions and the Raiders, though. All right, Jeremy.
London.
Jacob cleans up. While Jacob cleans up.
Go change if you got to change.
Someone have a cigarette?
Jeremy, would you rather see him with the Lions, the Raiders, the Titans? And we're going to leave the Chargers out of this so that Jacob doesn't come for a second time.
I will say I'll take the Lions. I think I like the Lions. He has a clear role. He can be paired with the Sun God again, and Jared Goff might be willing to just chuck the ball anywhere. He doesn't really care anymore at this point.
My favorite thing about Drake London thus far,
he doesn't care.
My favorite thing about Drake London thus far is his news conference that he had, like when he stepped in the combine, and they were asking him, hey, what do you think of Amon-Ra St. Brown? And they're like, hey, what team do you want to end up with? And he's like, I want to end up with the one with the swaggiest uniforms.
Who has the swaggiest uniforms of those three?
Not the Lions.
Raiders.
Yeah, definitely not the Lions.
The Chargers. Oh wait, no, I nixed the Chargers.
Took them out.
Yeah, I don't like the Titans one. I'll take the Lions over the.
No, it's the Raiders. It's the Raiders.
Raiders are the swaggiest for sure. Yeah. Black and silver. I think Drake London would have fun in Vegas. He strikes me as a guy who would enjoy himself.
So maybe we do not want him there.
Yeah. What's wrong with Honolulu Blue?
Yeah.
All right, so Shane, is there another receiver that you like to see with the Lions? Do you like their receiving core? Like, do you think that Treylon Burks, for example, could be a better fit for the Lions? Would you rather see him there? Or what would you do with Treylon Burks if he ended up with the Lions? Actually, let me ask you that because he's your number one.
I'm always buying,
else, right?
Well, I'm always going to buy talent over situation, even though I'm the landing spot correspondent. So, and knowing that Goff is only going to be there for one more year, because Goff just had his best season that I'll ever have as a Lion.
Chase.
I'm not too concerned about the quarterback situation there. And look, they have a nice slot receiver or whatever he is, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's a very nice fourth option in an offense. So I like that he won't have to fight too hard for target competition. Sorry, Jake.
Unless they take more than one wide receiver.
Yeah.
Hey, the nice thing is if he does go to the Lions, like people don't have to ask, how can Drake London and Amon-Ra St. Brown combine for over 50% of a team's targets? Because they can just watch 2020 USC and then they can see it.
Oh my God. All right. So let's hop on to the Raiders. The Raiders have to draft wide receiver. They keep
I don't know,
fucking
man.
up
I
at
think
wide
Brian
receiver.
Edwards is everything that they hoped
the
for.
answer.
I mean, dude, when you look at their wide receiver room and what they've drafted over the past how long now? Like before Darius Hayward-Bay, right? Like I mean, Hunter Renfrow is the best draft pick of wide receiver over the past 20 years.
One of the best in the NFL of all time, really.
I was about to
Amari
give him
Cooper.
Yeah, Cooper.
Oh,
It's true.
yeah, they didn't hold on to him, but you're right. You're 100%.
I think their
right.
best wide receiver was signing Crabtree off the scrap sheet.
That's what I was gonna say. Crabtree. Yeah.
They try with Jordan.
Randy
Moss.
Moss. Oh wait. Yeah.
Antonio Brown.
Oh, Jerry Rice. Remember Jerry Rice there?
Oh god.
I don't.
Nelson Aguilar had a good season there, didn't he?
Yeah.
All right.
He did.
He
He
did,
crushed
yeah.
it. So, Jeremy, is there a player that you could envision being successful with Derek Carr? Does he have to have size and create separation in order for him to be successful, or would Derek Carr be able to chuck it to a guy like, I don't know, Drake London, who can't create separation?
I don't think that. I think Derek Carr would chuck it to somebody who can't create separation. Derek Carr is a slight gunslinger to his game. So for me, I think that no matter who lands there, I think we'll have to go with this like a size type guy. Look, he loves Darren Waller, and he's got that kind of a mold that doesn't really create too much separation and has that size. So for me, I would like the Burks, the Pickens, Drake London. Somebody that's got that size, I think, is a better option there. It's almost like what they hoped Brian Edwards would be.
I mean, they've messed up, though, in the past with, like, N'Keal Harry, right? Like, you know, from the organizational standpoint. And obviously, Josh McDaniel, I believe, had something to say with N'Keal Harry. And then all of a sudden, he ends up on the opposite end of the bench, of course, from the head coach. Or from the offensive coordinator, I'm sorry. So, I mean, do they go that size route or do they go the speed route like Josh McDaniels has always preferred? Because he prefers receivers that create separation himself.
Well, I mean, I think he prefers slot wide receivers, but he already has that.
Yeah, he already has Renfrow. That's the only reason that I'm saying they might take that size, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, you're probably right. They probably are looking like Garrett Wilson, like Jameson Williams, or
I think
Dotson, or
I hope they get
it.
I hope they get
I think Dotson.
I'd like Treylon Burks there. Drake London, if he can run a little faster than he's supposed to, would be fine there. I know we like to bag on Carr, but Carr's actually a good deep thrower. It's just that
he never has the opportunity to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like this Carr, there's been sort of a mythology that Carr refuses to take shots down the field, refuses to throw outside the numbers, and when your two best weapons are a tight end and a slot wide receiver, you probably spend most of your time throwing inside the numbers because, like, you can either throw to Renfrow and Waller, or you can throw to Zay Jones, Brian Edwards. Like, I don't know, what are you going to throw to? Probably over the middle. Yeah, I mean, I think there's guys in this class. Like, I think Garrett Wilson can play outside wide receiver without a problem. Like, I think he'd be fine there. But yeah, my preference. Yeah, I think they need a guy who can man the outside and provide a different element than what Renfrow is able to do. And clearly Brian Edwards just isn't the guy to do that. So, you know, I think Treylon Burks, I think anybody would be fine on the Raiders, to be honest. Like it wouldn't surprise me to see them go Jameson Williams, right? I mean, like Henry Ruggs was far more one-dimensional in my opinion than Jameson Williams. But we saw at the beginning of the year, their passing offense was way better. Like if you look at Derek Carr's numbers, his numbers, both in terms of volume and efficiency, were way, way better when Ruggs was healthy. And I think Jameson Williams is a much, much better version of Ruggs. Yes. Like Ruggs is kind of a one-gear player to me. Like he's just kind of a guy that runs a lot of deep routes. He can run the post, he can run the 9, and that's awesome because if you can run 4-2-7, you'll always have a place in an NFL offense. But Jameson Williams, like, I mean, first of all, he's just more productive, but he changes gears a lot better. Like he's more Waddle-esque in that sense, in that he can manipulate his acceleration a lot better than Ruggs. Like he gets into a quick decel, he can bait corners, he can do that. So he can run the full route tree. I don't think he's quite the same yak player that Jalen Waddle is, but he's somewhere between Waddle and Ruggs, and I think more to the Waddle side of that spectrum. And I'd love to see him there.
Who runs the faster 40? Dotson or Williams?
Well, Williams probably won't run because the ACL.
Yeah,
I keep on bringing it up. God,
I'll definitely take Dotson right now, like straight up.
How about this? I'll take
crutches and all.
Yeah. Okay, how about this? Who runs that faster 40 time right now? Jameson Williams or Shane Manila?
Yes. Oh,
that would be close. I will say this: I will kick his crutches out. He will take his crutches.
I will play dirty. I will kick the crutches.
Oh my
out.
god! I don't know why
I
I
think
cannot
if-
get in my head that he's not running. He keeps on
I
like
think
messing
if
with me.
he
'Cause I
was
so
fully
looking-
healthy, Jameson Williams would be the fastest wide receiver in the combine.
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
expect it. Yeah.
Okay, all right, because I think Dotson's a little bit underrated. So let's hop over real quick. We're just gonna
He's
talk.
quick. Dawson's
We're
quick.
gonna do one quick I guess take on the quarterback position. I want to know who you think drafts the first quarterback and who that quarterback will be. So we'll start out with who looks the most ready.
Malik Willis,
Jer-
Carolina.
Okay, cool. Shane's got the first one. All right, Jacob just got his hopes up. So Jeremy, you're up next.
I'm gonna say Denver, and I'm gonna go with Kenny Pickett.
Okay, I'll say Malik Willis, Washington Commanders.
I was going to say Kenny Pickett, Washington. But do any of these quarterbacks actually have success year one? Jeremy?
Fantasy or NFL?
Fantasy success.
Malik Willis is probably your best bet. Just because he's going to have that Jalen Hurts rushing floor, you know what I mean? That kind of style.
Is it guaranteed to see snaps week one, though? Like
Yes,
that's
I
a
think
major
so.
concern.
I think he goes high enough. Like you said, if Shane's right, if he lands in Carolina, if he lands in Denver, Washington, like those places, he will win the job. I have no doubt.
Like they're so bad that like if they drafted us, we would have a shot at starting
Exactly.
reps for those teams.
I think it totally depends where. Like, I mean, we saw it obviously with Lance last year, landing in a spot behind Garoppolo, and it was a team that traded up. It was a team that had a contention. So it totally depends. Like, I think the spot that's realistic for him to get drafted where he would not get snaps year one is Atlanta.
Yeah,
that was one of my big takes. Yeah, so if he ends up landing in Atlanta, like you could end up seeing him sit for an entire year behind Matt Ryan, and then they would have to build an offense around him. They would have to completely change their game plan. And this is not a team that has ever supported a rushing quarterback. I know that Tannehill, with the offense or with the system coming from over there, has a lot of Tannehill run, but it has not been a rushing offense. So they really have to tailor that offense and bring a new offensive coordinator in to be able to allow that rushing upside to fully take home.
I mean, I'd love that spot, by the way, because like at that point, I would just draft Malik Willis everywhere. He probably won't even have to spend the 101 on him because people would be worried about Matt Ryan. I mean, they just saw it with Trey Lance. People get spooked. Yeah. And then I would just draft Malik Willis, and then I'll just go trade for Matt Ryan. I mean, he's not that expensive. I did this in a couple leagues last year with Lance, where I was like, all right, just in case, I'll just go get Jimmy. And like Jimmy was really cheap last year. And then you end up getting multiple years. Like, I don't know, maybe even get 2 years out of Matt Ryan, like maybe one in Atlanta and then maybe one somebody else. And if you can spend like a late 2 and a early 1 and get Matt Ryan and Malik Willis, like that's the kind of handcuffing I'm all about. All about.
All right, Shane, do you have is there any chance that Kenny Pickett or Coral? Is it Coral?
Matt Corral.
I've always said Corral.
It's Golden Corral.
I literally just listened to a podcast where they said Coral the entire time, and I'm like, it was Corral.
Was it mine? Because I don't pronounce names correctly.
I thought it might have been yours. It was either you or Mike. Mike File. Like I thought it was one of you two, but it was not. It was actually a very popular one. And they said
sure it's
Coral.
Corral.
Yeah, no, that's what I've been saying the entire time. So, is there any chance that any one of these quarterbacks could outproduce Malik Willis in their rookie season? And if so, which team would they have to land with?
Coral. If he lands with the Coral, if he lands with Denver or Carolina. I mean, quite honestly, any of the quarterbacks that land with Denver or Carolina, like you have just an instant offense. Like, you know what I mean? You just have to be good. You don't need to be great. You just need to be functional, and you will put up good fantasy numbers because they have good offenses just waiting for a quarterback to come in and sprinkle some goodness in there. I guess maybe Pittsburgh too.
Yeah, I love that spot.
Yeah, with Deontay and apparently Juju's coming back again. Damn it. Claypool, Najee. Like, you know what I mean?
Wait, was there a report out that said
he's never leaving. He's just fucking.
Wait, was there a report?
It's Juju, man. The last thing I saw was him dancing on Twitch and talking about how much he loves Pittsburgh
so there's nothing
while doing the crate challenge.
Juju is the Justin Ross of the NFL in terms of the premature ejaculation.
Pittsburgh would like to bring him back, and he's interested. It was the last little blurb I saw for whatever it's worth. All those blurbs are meaningless, but yeah, I mean those are the places, right? They have built-in offenses. They have built-in weapons. They literally just need a quarterback to come in and not fuck things up. Like, you just need to be slightly better than Ben Roethlisberger, who was the worst quarterback that's ever played football.
Struggle.
Well, he was worse than Ben Roethlisberger, which is bad. What was it? 280 yards on 50 attempts, whatever.
He should have lost to the Lions, Mason Rudolph.
Yeah,
at home.
Instead, he tied. So that's where I'm going.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is all these quarterbacks run except for small hands. So basically,
hey, small hands, all right? I got small hands. He's my friend.
I did this. I was looking at college quarterbacks drafted in the top half of the first round, which that might not be a lot of them, but in their college market rushing share. And essentially the under 10% group, not so great. Then you get to the 10 to 15, not so great. And then once you hit 15, I didn't notice a major gap in fantasy production between like the 15 to 20 group and the 20 plus group. Malik Willis, blows the pack away. He has a 37% college rushing market share. That's basically like RG3, Cam Newton, like top of the list in terms of rushing, Lamar Jackson. But Ritter, Howell, and Corral are all over 15% best season. So I think any of those three guys, if they get draft capital, if they land in a spot where they start soon, they could have, high-end QB2 fantasy upside. And we'll see. Maybe they're good. Like, I like this quarterback class because everyone's out on it because it's supposedly a bad class. And last year's class was supposed to be good, and then they were dog shit. So that's combination has everybody really down in this class. And we're just not good enough at like evaluating quarterbacks. So to me, if everyone thinks everyone's going to suck, I'm happy to bet the other side of that.
I can see that happening 100%. And then all of a sudden, well, actually not all of a sudden, I feel like this class is full of Derek Carrs, essentially, outside of, Malik Willis. Like, we have a ton of Derek Carrs, so they could be very good, Baker Mayfield's to an extent, where that's like their floor, and then the ceiling is Derek Carr, and that's pretty much what we're dealing with.
Let's tell the truth. We legitimately have no fucking idea which one of these quarterbacks is going to be good, because if we did, Josh Allen would have been the 101 in every rookie draft he was in, and instead you got him at 201, 202. People made fun of you, and I also made fun of people that drafted him at 110. But you know what I mean? Like, and then
Shane?
we
were drafting that early in a single quarterback draft or a single.
No,
that's all you play though, right? Single quarterback.
No, and then so after that, people were grabbing Dickface, Daniel Jones, and going, well, he's the next Josh Allen. You know what I mean? Lamar Jackson was going in the middle of rookie drafts.
I got him in the third round in one draft.
I think quarterbacks, you're going to buy some traits, right? Like, all I'm doing is betting on the upside. So that's every guy that can run. So that's Sam Howell, Malik Willis, and Coral's got a little bit of movability to him and a little wiggle.
We still say Coral because I'm going to sit there and start thinking his name is Coral.
According to Google pronunciation, it's Kral. It's pronounced K-R-A-L.
Crown.
Wait,
so it's actually Matt Crown.
Like the thick six lady, like Maddie Crowell.
Yeah. That's what it says. It sounds like K-I or K-R-A-L. So I'd say that's Kral.
Did you guys know that Matt Corral had to move high schools because he beat up Wayne Gretzky's kid?
Sounds about right.
All right, so to close out the show, I made a trade that I told you guys I would tell you about. And this trade is in a league with a bunch of industry people. And I decided to go super into winning this year. And I literally sold my entire team. Like, my entire draft was dedicated towards winning this year. Yeah. Oh, you're going to hate it. So I made this trade to solidify because certain teams started to try to compete with me for this year. So I decided to get rid of all of my future and all of my depth and to fill out this roster. And I'll show you guys the roster in a second, but I'm going to start it with a trade. Can you guys see it?
I see one person.
Wait, so
and a lot
you
of little
traded?
things.
Okay, so you traded no one, Claypool, short no one, a first, a second. Okay, so you traded a first, a second, and a lot of roster spots for Devontae Adams.
I traded a lot.
fine.
Well, I also
and
gave up
Claypool.
Rondell Moore.
Yeah, no, he doesn't count. Okay, first, so
Jacob's hate for Rondell Moore is unreal.
okay, so first Claypool, second. No, I don't hate Rondell Moore, but it's just like,
I don't know Rondell Moore.
I'm indifferent on Rondell Moore. I don't hate him or love him. Yeah, so I love a 23 first. We love a 23 second. I like Claypool. And then like the rest is like, yeah, I don't know. The rest is stuff that you part with if you can. I'm indifferent on this deal.
Shane, you're the trade expert over here. I mean, I know you don't really talk.
So it's Devontae Adams, Corey Davis.
Maximize the screen real quick.
Randall.
It's in the bottom right
Randall
corner.
Cobb.
Randall Cobb.
3/3. There's a 2021 first.
Shane, it's a 23 first, 23 second, 3/3. Chase Claypool, Rondale, and Corey Davis. So it's essentially it's a first, a second, Claypool, and some stuff.
So it's Claypool and a first for Devontae Adams. 2023
You don't care about seconds? You don't care about seconds?
In 2023?
All right. Well, the 20. Never mind. We'll get into that.
Corey Davis was very hot last year.
How many do you start in this league?
I'll pull up the roster in a second. I just wanted you to see this. Jeremy, do you have a good look at the trade before I move on to the roster?
Yeah, I had to zoom in, but I'm zoomed in now. We're good.
All right, cool. So let me move on to my roster. All right. Y'all can still see it, right?
Yes.
So I've got Kyler Murray, Antonio Gibson, Miles Sanders, Keenan Allen, Deebo Samuel. I'm weak at tight end with Pat Freiermuth. I got Chase Edmonds, Amari Cooper, Lamar Jackson. Devontae Adams would fit in right here. And then a bunch of trash. Cordell Patterson, Kenny Gainwell, and that's pretty much it.
I actually traded for Devontae Adams yesterday, too, if you want to compare trades.
Oh, let's do it. What'd you get?
I traded it's 0.5 tight end premium. I traded Noah Fant, the 22-104, and Amari Cooper for Kareem Hunt, Devontae Adams, and the 205.
The 205 is the thing that brings it even with my trade, I feel like.
So I got Adams, a second, and Hunt for Fant, 1-4, and Amari Cooper. And I already had Travis Kelce, so Fant's like not a huge loss.
I like Amari Cooper this year, so
I would take that deal all day.
Yeah.
I think Kareem Hunt that's a discount on Kareem Hunt. I think he still comes back and is pretty much an RB2 like he has been his entire career probably.
Yeah, I looked
that
at
Browns
it like,
offense, and then like Amari Cooper to me just always disappoints me. I know he gets points, but he always just like whenever I need him to get points, he never does. So he hurts me too many times. So I would take Devontae Adams, and 2.5 is still going to be decent. I think he'll get a good player there. And 1.4, like yeah, and like you said earlier, like we were talking about it, like 1.4 isn't like super enticing this year. Like it's a good pick. There's players there, but like I'd part with that to get Devontae Adams.
Which one do you like more though, Jeremy?
I would probably take Jake's, mainly just because you gave up so much. I'm not a fan of giving up a ton of assets.
Yeah, I was just trying to win now, and then I'll rebuild in 2024.
No, I get it. But every time I try to do that, I always get hurt. Then like J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards tear their ACL, and my team's toast in every single league.
That happened to Jacob's.
That happened to me in our
dynasty intervention.
It's like the one league that I was like handcuffed, not even like intentionally, just because I like Gus.
That was like all my 10 teams, literally.
It was the worst.
My entire running back room in a week.
Yeah, I had so many Dobbins Akers teams too, and ETN teams is a disaster.
Shane, are you in the same boat as you just thought I gave away a bunch of trash to acquire Devontae Adams, or would you take the other side?
No, I don't like that you gave a 2023 first. I gotta be honest with you. I'm not super proud of you there. I understand why you did it. I
have a very limited window here. Like,
I mean, look, I get
now you do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
so now it's done. Now it's over.
yeah, you've got this year and next year. You know, you've tied yourself into a bucket that you can't get out of.
100%. And I'm screwed if it goes bad.
Side note, I don't know if we got enough time, but Chase Edmonds, where do you think he goes?
I hope Arizona.
I don't.
I think he ends up. So I want him to end up in Washington. I think that it's a smart move for Washington and for Chase Edmonds.
R.I.P. the Gibson people. If that happens.
100%. And I don't want it to happen. I don't want it to happen. I just think it's a good move for both parties, right? Like, I think it's a great move for both parties because Chase Edmonds can't handle a full workload. Every time he does, he gets hurt. Not injured, but hurt. And then every time that, Washington needs, Gibson to play pass catching role, he never does. I don't know why yet, but he doesn't. I mean, it's got to do with the
Did you know that he was a receiver in college?
At pass blocking. He was a receiver in high school, too. he just sucks at pass blocking. So, and that's a big issue. Like J.D. McKissick, when you have J.D. McKissick scoring infinitely better than you, it's a whole different animal. So then we have who else? We have Detroit's looking for a running back, for a pass catching running back.
They have DeAndre. What do you mean Detroit? They have DeAndre Swift.
Yeah,
it was said from the beat writers they're looking for another pass catching running back. So I don't really know what that means.
It's a good thing I've been selling all my DeAndre Swift then. What's the point of having a pass catch? I mean, what does DeAndre Swift do for you if not catch passes?
They don't want him in a 3-down role. Is what the beat writers have been saying. So I don't know.
You better trust the beat writers, because if you do, I got to move my one share of DeAndre Swift right now.
I have DeAndre Swift.
I have sold 7 shares of DeAndre Swift this offseason, so I'm down 3, and maybe I'll get to 0. That's the case.
All right. Anybody else?
No.
All right. Let's go ahead and get out of here.
Like Chase Edmonds to remain where he is.
All right, Jeremy, where can we find you, man?
You guys can find me on Twitter at PopesFFH, and then any writing works over at Sports Gambling Podcast and Yardsburg.
All right, Shane, where can we find you?
At Shane's Works on the Twitter boxes, at Dynasty Trades HQ. No, not at. On the Dynasty Trades HQ podcast, on the Dynasty and Trades 5 YouTube channel. Go hit subscribe, you fucking bitches. And randomly on Mannequin Chill, which we're going to do this week. We're going to do a live stream. Find me writing for Dynasty League Football, Fantasy Data, working on the Dynasty League Football Draft Guide. There.
All right, Jacob, where can we find you?
Find me on Twitter, FF_RTDB. Here every Wednesday, of course. And then you can find me tomorrow night on Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. We're going live with Steven Johnson from Tri-City Sports. And we have a couple of big guests coming up. On Monday, we have Roto Pat. Pat Doherty is coming on the show. Then Tuesday, we'll have Alfred Fernandez from Campus to Canton. So we'll have like 3 shows in a 5-day window for you. So that'll be fun. Also, Shane at some point is coming on the Walkabout, Tom told me today. So Shane's going down.
I believe it's the 12th. Sounds right. I believe it's the 12th.
Very nice.
I'm not on that show. Tom asked me, he's like, I want to bring Shane on. I was like, okay, the show that I don't do, make sure to put Shane. I see enough of freaking Shane.
We see each other all the time. All right. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. You guys need to go check out youtube.com/fantasyintervention. Make sure you guys hit subscribe, and make sure if you're purchasing a trophy for any reason, any occasion, it could be weddings. It could be, hey, you have a new baby coming to town, right? Like you're birthing a baby. Congratulations. You need a title belt. Whatever the occasion, make sure y'all go check out Trophy Smack. Use promo code CIRCLE and you'll get a free championship ring to remember your baby by.
Now, any guys watching this, yeah, if your girl is pregnant right now, please go get her a Trophy Smack title belt, because she will I just want to see her face when you give it to her. Be like, oh, this is for having the baby.
And record it, please.
Yes.
Please record it. Dude, if not for a viral video, please just do it for us. We appreciate you guys for listening in. Thank you guys for letting us interview with your fantasy football life. We're out.